Polynomials and factoring. So first off, we're going to learn today about what polynomials are. Then we're going to learn how to factor them using some GCFs. Then we're going to do some factoring of simple ones and then factoring on longer ones. So this is going to be a lesson. Well, this is a shorter lesson today, but then going forward, there's going to be a lot of things in this chapter. After we hit about lesson 4, it's all going to be about how to factor a polynomial, but there's about 5 different types of polynomials. Okay, so there's going to be like an easy one, a little bit harder, a little bit harder. Then there'll be 2 that are about impossible to do by rule. So then we have to learn special topics to do those. Okay, so first off, polynomials and factoring. Today's lesson, we are doing adding and subtracting polynomials. This is not too crazy, I promise you that. All right, it's very similar to some of the stuff we did in last chapters. So adding and subtracting polynomials and also classifying. If you want to add that on for the title, we're also classifying some polynomials today. All right, we ready? No? You're never going to be ready, SB. All right. So here's our first definitions. Is that big enough? You want me to make it a little bigger? Adding and subtracting polynomials. There you go. Monomial. First one is monomial. Monomial is a real number, a variable, or product of a number and one or more variables with whole number exponents. We've talked about it so far as just a term. Okay, it might be a 2, it might be a 2x, it might be 2x squared y to the third. Right? It's just a set of things that are just multiplied together. There could be a whole number, there might not be, but just a single term, that is a monomial. Now, one thing to notice here is it's going to have whole number exponents. Okay, that means you cannot have negative exponents. You cannot have square roots, because a square root would actually be something to the 1/2 power. I think I mentioned that. I might not have mentioned it to you. This is more of like an algebra 2 topic, but the square root of x is the same as x to the 1/2 power. Okay, so an x or a square root or any type of root, that's considered a fractional exponent. All right, so those cannot exist in a monomial or a polynomial. We'll get that here in a minute. And you cannot have a negative exponent. Okay, those are 2 qualifications. So that makes it easier on us. We don't have to worry about taking stuff to the top to the bottom, get rid of a negative sign or anything like that. Then we have a degree of a monomial. The degree is the sum of the exponents of its variables. We'll look at that here in a second. So we're going to be able to classify these based on the degree of them by essentially looking at the exponents. Okay? Let you finish getting that copied down. My gargle, my goodness. Come on, work at hand. Let's go. Okay, so we want to find the degree of the monomial. We're going to do the 3 on the left, and you guys will do the 3 on the right. So first one, I'm going to find the degree of the monomial. Degree is just whatever the exponent powers are, or the sum of the exponent powers. This one I only have one variable, correct? what power would that x be to? First power. If there's no power, it's the first power, right? So what's the degree of that guy? 1. So the first degree. Right? Now, typically, I don't like this. I'll do this. We would write it like this, like degree 1. Just put deg 1.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay? All right. Second one. This one's a little trickier. We got a 3 and a 2. We want the sum of it, though. What's 3 plus 2? 5. So what's the degree? Degree 5. Last one. That's still a monomial. It doesn't have any variables, but it's still a monomial. What's the degree of the exponent? 0. We're only worried about the variables. There's no variables, is there?
No.
Okay, so there's no variables. Therefore, there's no power to it. It should be a degree 0. All right? There's 3 over there on the side. Figure them out real quick. Shouldn't take you more than 10 seconds. I'll give you 20, though. Foster, what's 1? What's the degree of the x? 1. What's the degree of the y? 1. Add them together, what do you get? 2. That's degree 2. Espy, what's the degree of number 2? Degree 5. Correct. 4 and 1. Luther, what's the degree of 3? 3. Any questions with degree so far? Not bad, right? All right, so that was monomials. Let's do a little adding, subtracting with them before we move forward. Okay, adding, subtracting monomials is combined like terms. That's all it is. So if I do the first two, 3x squared, 5x squared, do they both have the same variable? Yes, it's both x squared. So if they're both x squared, I can add the coefficients, right? 3 and 5 is 8. So I have 8x squared. Second one, this guy has 2 letters in it. Are both letters exactly the same? Yeah, x to the third and y. Now, if I had x to the third y minus x to the third y squared, could I combine them? No. If there's more than one letter, that each one of the letters have to be exactly the same for it to be a like term. In this case, we're good. So what's 4 minus 1? 3. So 3 x to the third y. Do the next two.
Yeah. Dude.
Where are you getting 3 at?
It's x to the third and x to the third.
Adding like terms. You add the coefficients, bud.
What's coefficient?
It's not multiplication.
Still confused how it's 3.
4 minus 1.
What's 4?
To the whole way to the left.
So you add the y's to the x.
You don't touch the letters.
No, we're talking about the
Combine like terms.
we're
That's
talking
it.
about like x to the third.
Don't worry about them.
Then what do you?
They're like terms.
But he's bugging.
Okay. Is this and this exactly the same? Yes. Okay. Is this and this like terms?
Yeah.
Yes. What's 2x plus 3x? 5x. The same thing. You just have more letters.
Okay, but shouldn't it be 3 actually x shouldn't be?
No, that's only multiplication. This is addition.
Hear me out.
Subtraction.
Hear me out.
No, you're wrong. Add the coefficients. That's it. 4 negative 1 is 3. Done. That's it. Don't make it harder than it has to be.
To the 6.
Okay? Multiplication, you have to deal with exponents. Yes. If you get anything other than x to the fourth and number 3 as an answer, you're wrong. Your coefficient could be different, but it's talking variables. And then the last one, your variables are going to be x squared y to the fourth. Don't touch them. Just do the coefficients. So, Matrum, what's number 3? 5x to the fourth.
No, you dummy.
11's bigger than 6. 11's bigger than 6. Same signs add, different signs subtract, take the sign of the larger. Okay, Russell, number 4, what do you got? -5? Okay, that's what I thought you said. Guys, all it is, coefficients. Combine the coefficients, that's it. Adding, subtracting. Okay, let's move on now to polynomials. So, a polynomial, I'll blow this up a little bit. So, polynomial is a monomial or sum of monomials. So, really, at the end of the day, polynomial is kind of the big concept. Monomial is a smaller section of it, but it's easier to start with just that. Okay? So, polynomial is a monomial or sum of monomials. So, it might be like 2x squared plus x plus 2. All right? It's just a series of them. You can't combine them any further than that. You stop right there for the polynomial. Second thing is the standard form of a polynomial. Standard form is degrees of its monomials decrease from left to right. I think I talked about that a little bit last chapter. This one we have to start putting them in the correct order. All right? You're going to have to, if you have something x to the third, then an x term, then a whole number, you want to put it in that order. With your biggest power to the left, and then decrease in power. All right? And then last one is the degree of a polynomial. The degree of the monomial with the greatest degree. So what you would do, we just talked about the degrees, right? For the monomial. You would go through the polynomial, say it has 3 terms. You'd figure out the degree of each one. Whichever has the highest degree, that's the degree of your whole polynomial. Okay? We'll look at quite a few examples of these. Wish your hand moved as fast as your mouth. Okay. So when we classify these guys, we can classify them 2 ways. So when I say classify the polynomial, you're going to do it based on 2 things. One is the degree. We've already talked about it. So here's the first couple of degrees. If something has a degree 0, meaning there's no x, it's just a constant. Okay, it's degree 1, it's linear. Degree 2 is quadratic. Degree 3 is cubic. And then after that, it would just be degree 4, degree 5, degree 6. There's no more fancy names for them. Okay, so from 4 and bigger, it would just be degree whatever it is. The second way you can classify them is based on how many number of terms that they have. So for instance, if it has 1 term, it's a monomial, which we just talked about. 2 terms is binomial. 3 times is trinomial. Anything 4 terms and above, you just say it's a 4-term polynomial. 5-term polynomial, something like that. So when you classify a polynomial, you're going to have two ways to classify it. One by degree and one by number of terms. So for instance, if I write this here, 3 squared minus 2x plus 4. First off, notice the order I have this written. My x is my variable, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so that's the standard form of a polynomial like we talked about on the last slide. Next thing, I want to figure out the degrees. So I go through, what's the degree of 3x squared? 2. That's whatever the power is, right? What's the degree of the next term? 1. What's the degree of the last term? 0. What's the biggest degree? 2. 2 is the biggest degree. So this would be a quadratic, because it's degree 2. How many terms does it have? 1, 2, 3 terms.
It's a trinomial.
So it's a trinomial. It's a quadratic trinomial.
What's a quadratic trinomial?
Quadratic formula, it's all the way up there to the right. Okay, that is a quadratic trinomial. Questions? So that chart right there would be something good to have copied down and somewhere near you whenever you're doing your homework. You should have been doing that anyway.
Dude, I remember these already.
Okay. Don't look at me the whole time. What's two term?
Quadratic.
What's two term?
What?
What's a two term?
Binomial.
What about something to the degree 3? No. Cubic. See, you lied already, Hoover.
I didn't.
You lied like a rug.
I knew it, and I was right there.
Like a rug, but he's got hair like a rug.
Samson pulls hair like a cat. He pulled my hair this morning. It was really weird.
Hey, get a copy down.
Yeah.
All right, so when it says to classify a polynomial, you are going to need 2 words. Well, sometimes more if it's, degree 5-term polynomial. It would be more than 2 words, but it's 2 ways to classify. Classify by degree, classify by number of terms. We good?
No. Quadratic, take up the formula.
About 10 seconds, we're moving on here.
Wait, give me a like 8.
I don't think he's living anymore.
He's not living?
I don't know.
Okay, living here.
Okay. You have 4 of them up here. Okay, let's do the first one together. So you need to do a couple things. 1, you need to classify the polynomial. 2, I also want you to put in standard form. Okay, put in standard form, standard polynomial form. So look at this first one here. I have 3x plus 4x squared. So if I want to put it in standard form, I just need to switch the order of them, don't I? So I need x squared and then x to the first. I need them descending order. So I'm going to rewrite this as 4x squared plus 3x. So this had to switch the order. Okay? Biggest power to the left and then descend. All right? Now, in this case, what is the degree of my 4x squared term? What's the degree? Just 2, right? What's the degree of 3x? 1. Okay? All right, so now let's classify it. So based off of this, the overall polynomial has degree 2, right? What's a degree 2 called? quadratic. So this is a quadratic. And then how many terms does it have? 2, so it is a binomial. Yep, you take the largest. This one's 2, this one's 1. Therefore, the degree of the whole thing would be degree 2.
One is mononomial.
Single term.
Wait, if you have just a single term, what is that called?
Monomial. First degree. Okay. The degree is your exponents. So looking at this term right here, I have x to the second power, so it's degree 2. This one here is x to the first power, so it's the degree 1. Okay, so the biggest one here is what? 2. So the overall thing is a degree 2, which is going to be a quadratic. All right, so there's 3 of them on the page. I want you to take a couple of minutes, put them all in the proper order, standard form, and then classify them. Number 2. We have 2x minus 1 plus 5x to the third plus 7x squared. Mauer, what order should it be in?
5x to the third. 7x to the plus 2x.
Good. All right. What's the degree of this thing? Yeah, it'd be 3, so it would be cubic, right? So this would be a cubic, and then we have 4 terms, so it's a cubic what? Yep, a cubic 4-term polynomial. You can just call it poly. I'm fine with that too. Okay? So it'd be a cubic 4-term poly. All right. Third one. Dick, what do you got for me? Give it to me in order first. Yes. Okay. I agree. That's in standard form. What's the degree of this guy? It's a cubic because it's degree 3, right? So it's a cubic. And then how many terms does it have? 3, so it's a trinomial. Good. So it's a cubic trinomial. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Camden. Third one. First off, we already talked about this one. This one's already in order, right? So what's the degree of it? We're doing it based on x. Okay? So 3, 2, 1 based on the x. So what's the degree of this guy? 6? Where'd you get 6 at? Close. You're close. So this would have a degree of 4, right? Add the exponents. This is a degree 4. What would this degree be? 7. So what's the degree of the whole thing? Biggest number is 7. So it's a degree 7. So that's the biggest one. How many terms do we have? 3. So it's a what? Monomial, binomial, trinomial, blank term, polynomial. Trinomial. Degree 7 trinomial. Yes. If we did it by y's, then we'd have, this would be the first one, this would be the second, this would be the third. Yeah, you would just flip the order. All right? Questions? Biggest to smallest by degree of exponents. Typically. Usually whatever one is closest to the whole number. So like here's x. If I had like 7a squared b, chances are you're going by a. All right? All right, last part. Adding polynomials. We already talked about this a little bit. We did adding monomials, right? So you're going to get two things like this. So here is a 4-term polynomial and a 4-term polynomial. We're going to add those two together. But all we're doing is going to be combining like terms, right? Why can I see you smiling? You're the only mouth that I see right now. Okay. So right now, do these parentheses mean anything to us? No, they don't. They don't mean a thing. All they're doing is essentially grouping the first polynomial and the second polynomial, right? So what you can do is really just get rid of them. All right? So you can rewrite this with them not even there if you want. Now you want to combine like terms. Now I said this before when we talked about combining like terms. I like to underline. So those both are to the third power. This is to the second power, third power, fourth power. Okay, so combine our like terms. What's 8x to the third plus 3x to the third? 11x to the third. 2x squared minus 3x squared. Negative x squared. Negative 3x and negative 5x. Negative 8x. 4 and 6. 10. So we went through, we combined all our like terms, right? Now, let's classify it while we're at it. What's the degree of this guy? Degree 3. Okay, it's a degree 3, which would be a cubic. So this would be a cubic. And then how many terms do we have? We have 4 terms, so it would be a 4-term polynomial. Good. All right, we thought we did that.
Yes.
Yes? All right, I'm going to add these. I'm going to put this one up here. I want you guys to do this one. Holy shnikes.
Wait. Do you have Gavin also?
No, it's Gavin, the kid that shoots rats.
What?
Oh,
Remember
you're right,
the
bus
kid who
roll.
shoots
Never
his
mind.
rats and eats them?
Yeah.
That's why.
He told me that on a bus one day.
That's my favorite.
Okay, there you go. Simplify that. Combine your like terms, add them together, and classify. Give you 1 minute. 1 minute.
Right.
Gargle. You good back there?
Oh.
All right, Wood. Give me the polynomial you get after you add them. What's the polynomial you get after you add these two together? 11x to the second. Minus or plus? Plus 9x plus 20. SB, what degree is it? What's your biggest exponent? So what's the degree? No. The one that says degree. The first one. Okay, we have a quadratic. McGargle, what is it based on number of terms? That is not an answer. Maybe you need to phone a friend. Trinomial. Questions? That's pretty simple, right? All right, combine like terms. Now, last one of the day, subtracting polynomials. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. I mean, you can write them old school, like you write one over top of the other. I don't like to do that. Here's what I like to do. I like to get rid of the parentheses, and anytime you have a negative sign in front of the parentheses, what do you have to do with it? Distribute it, right? So I just like to rewrite this with no parentheses. So I'm going to rewrite this as x to the third minus 3x squared plus 5x, and I'm going to distribute this negative sign to every term. So minus 7x to the third minus 5x squared plus 12. You all right with how I did that?
Yeah.
I think that's way easier if we just distribute it through. Now we just combine our like terms like we did exactly in the last problem. Okay? So now x to the thirds is here and here. X squared, x, and that's not an x, so that's going to be separate. Okay? Can't combine those last two. So I'm going to have x to the third minus 7x squared. What's that going to be? X to the third minus 7x to the third. What's that going to be? Negative 6x to the third. Negative 3x squared and negative 5x squared. Negative 8x squared. Okay, I have a 5x, and that's the only just x term I have. And then I have a 12, which is the only whole number I have. So I did biggest to smallest based on my degrees and my x's. All right, so Lucas, what's the degree of this polynomial? Which is a cubic. And then, Macron, how many terms do we have? 4, so it's a what? 4-term polynomial. Questions? Okay, you guys do this one.
These are so easy.
Okay, there you go. Subtract that, and then identify. Sorry, classify. Wrong word. Classify.
Yes. Easy money.
How's your coffee smell? What kind of coffee do you like? Yeah. You just make it black coffee.
Yep.
I like French vanilla.
Yeah, I like the vanilla espresso. Tastes very sweet.
You some.
Okay. Mauer, give me the polynomial. All right. Anyone disagree? Why do you disagree?
No, never mind. Take it back.
So we'll have 8, -3, -3 and -2, 5, and then -8. All right. So, Owen, what is it based on degree? Degree 4. Foster, how many terms do we have? 4, so it's a what? Yep, 4-term poly. So degree 4, and then 4-term poly. Okay, I just put a comma there because otherwise it's going to look like 44. You get me? Okay, just something to keep in mind. All right, any questions, guys?